Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're a minute late. I'm sorry for that. I'm here with my co-host, Mary Ardania, and we are doing our podcast, Let's Become a Beloved Society, Conversations Illuminating Our Path to Wholeness. Today's subject, based on Good Friday, is a very important question. So over the last couple of weeks, because we spent a couple of episodes talking about evil and Satan and things like that, I had a number of questions come in revolving around religion and the purpose that religion serves in society. And I think the best worded question was the one that came in as, do religions help create a beloved society? Is that what they're doing now in the world? There were other questions that were a lot more blunt and brief, such as, are religions evil? Are any religions evil? Are all religions evil? There were a number of variations of that question. So that's going to be the topic today. It is Good Friday, and I shouldn't say in America, anywhere where there are Christians, I suppose that it's Good Friday to them, and practicing Christians, let's put it that way. Mary, do you have anything you'd like to add to the question at hand?
No, I think it's a good question. I'm happy that we're tackling it.
So, of course, there is no simple answer. If you were to try and do a yes, no to this question, I'd have to say both yes and no.
Yes.
Because there are things that religions bring to us that do help us become a beloved society. I think the core issue around this, though, is that there's also a large degree of separation, because each religion is under the impression that they know what they're talking about. And that flip side of that is that other people don't, and that other religions are wrong or inaccurate.
Right. That right there is my main beef with religion.
Okay.
We're right and everybody else is wrong.
Right. And we know this from the history of missionaries, right? Or the history of the act of being missionaries. Christianity isn't the religion, has sent missionaries out into the world, but it's definitely one of the major religions. There are others. There are, I know the Church of the Latter-day Saints, Jehovah's Witnesses, they send out missionaries. And they, in fact, do missionary work right here in America day to day. They go walking the streets and knocking on doors and attempting to convert people to their religion, which does believe in an Armageddon and an end of the world. And so the challenge really is to understand, why are they all so different? And how do we explain and work our way back to the other understandings that we have, where we know that everything is one? We know that everything is connected and everything is really one. And we are not separate people. So is there a value in having a religion that tells me that I am different from these other people because they don't believe what I believe? I think in the long run, it's less helpful than we might think.
Uh-huh.
Neil Donald Walsh uses the term recontextualization quite a bit. And I think that it's an exercise that everyone should engage themselves in, because it's truly our definition of God that seems to have us in such turmoil revolving around our religion. Because there are religions that claim that God is vengeful and cruel, and there are other religions that teach something different. And I don't want to get into the very specifics of certain religions, because that's not the point here. We're not trying to say any one or two or three or 10 religions are right or better or wrong from the others. This conversation is about the whole notion of religion and what it does to us in our daily lives. And in the idea of God, what we believe God to be is probably the very first place that we should start in our recontextualization, if you will, of what that means. Because in many ways, religion is a form of control. And in order for us to really become who we are, we need to have the individual freedom to be able to explore that in safe ways. And religion doesn't really give us a way to do that. Most religions, maybe all religions. So this idea that you can recontextualize how you think and feel about something is really key. Because remember, I want to say this right, and I've been struggling with it for some reason all morning. We judge life through our perceptions, how we perceive things to be. And a lot of times our perceptions are based on our experiences and conclusions we've made about things that have happened to us already. So let's, for example, for a minute, because I think it's an easy example to understand. Let's take, for example, an abusive parent. As a child, our tendency is to look at their behavior, their abuse of us, and somehow think that we deserved it. Somehow think that that abuse is because of us. And when you recontextualize that situation, you realize that when people are abusive, it's about them. It's actually not about the person they're abusing. In most cases, it doesn't have anything to do with that person, even though they're the one receiving the bad end of the stick, if you will. The person doing that behavior isn't really doing it. They may think they're doing it because of that person. You're so bad. You're so bad. You shouldn't have done that. I have to teach you a lesson. But all of that actually comes from within them. And it's a reflection of what's happened to them and the pain that they carry. So when you recontextualize the situation, you can shift where you have your energy and your focus, and you can come to realize that that person had a lot of problems. And no, it isn't right that they were taking it out on you. It isn't right at all. but you can understand it wasn't about you either. And so those things that you were holding about yourself not being good enough, or having done something wrong, or whatever it is, however you had interpreted their behavior, you can change that by recontextualizing it in a new, more informed mindset. Mary?
Yeah. What I've been sitting here thinking while listening to you is, you know, do religions contribute to a beloved society? And like you said, the answer is yes and no. And the ways in which they do contribute, the thing that I think is good about religion is the community aspect. And when they sort of take care of the people in their congregation and all of that, and it gives you a sense of belonging and everything. But at the same time, that aspect of control is what limits that. So it's like you have to be a member of their religion in good standing for a lot of these religions to care about what happens to you, you know? And to me, if we're all in this together, then we want to care about everybody, not just the people who belong to the same tribe that we belong to, as I like to say. To me, religion is like everything else, that's a form of tribalism. And if you belong to the tribe, we take care of you. And if you are outside the tribe, you know, if you're lucky, we're not trying to kill you. But it could be as extreme as we're trying to kill you or deny the right to live. Or it could just be we'll let you die in the streets without blinking, and that's not over exaggeration when you consider in our country here and other countries the laws relating to gay people or trans people right now who people are trying to legislate out of existence, or the laws about women's rights to our own bodies. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that religions perpetrate
Right.
that is not anything at all contributing to a beloved society.
Exactly.
So it's definitely a coin with two sides, one beautiful and one disturbing.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that, and I think most people don't know this, but if you take any of the major religions and you trace them all the way back to their original origin, to the very, very beginning, you actually end up in the exact same place. It doesn't matter what religion you started with. If you trace the history back, you end up with a 4-letter word: love. Religion started out as the teaching of love. It started out as the teaching of oneness. It started out that we are all connected. We are all divine, and we are all God's love in form. That's where you get if you go all the way back to the beginning. And where are we now? We are 180 degrees from that. We have more religions. And in fact, if I take a moment here, I was going to try and get this bookmarked ahead of time, and I didn't. But I'm going to just do it because nobody's actually going to mind, I don't think. I want to find this statistic because when I wrote my book years ago, 6 years ago, was it now? 8 years ago? It was a while ago. I put in my book, and the book, by the way, is Walking Through Your Walls, Loving Yourself and Everyone Else. and maybe this is a mistake, I don't know. I really wanted to try and find this, because what you discover is that not only are they all the major religions, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Chinese folk religion, Buddhism, tribal religions, atheists, new religions, Skiism, Judaism, Spiritism, Taoism, Baha'i faith, Confucianism, Jainism, Zoroastrianism, Shinto, Wicca. That's just a condensed list. But the other thing to realize is that there are new religions being born every day. And it was really, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to find it. And that's a little annoying because I really wanted to have that statistic. But basically, religions are being born all the time. There are all kinds of people who end up thinking that they're a messiah, and they have the answer, and you should follow them. And we've seen this over time. We've seen, gurus put all your worldly possessions in the trunk of my Mercedes kind of stuff over the years. The only real explanation is control. The only real explanation for why there are so many different religions and attempts at religion is control, money, and power. Those are the things motivating people. Even though you might think that, I have a brand new idea, and so I'm going to, form a religion and get a bunch of followers. Ultimately, this is just one more form of separation. It's one more form of saying, you don't fit in with me, I don't fit in with you, they don't fit in there, they don't fit in here. And now what we have in America is a country filled with people attempting to exert their religious influence through our government. And that's really, really bringing us to a low place, a really low place in society. We're
in
separating.
This country,
Yeah,
because this country was founded on the idea of separation of church and state. And it was founded that way because this country was populated by religious refugees from Europe.
Right.
So, like people in other countries where that's not a founding tenet, it's different,
Right.
It's not that, and I'm not saying it's inherently evil or something, but in this country, that is one of our founding tenets, one of the values upon which our country is based. And so to see it being thrown out like this is really disturbing.
Right. Right.
That's just for people who might be from other countries where that's not such a dire thing,
Right. Right. Yes. And there are other countries where they have way less freedoms. That's one of the things that's made America very unique. We are a fairly young country. We're only a couple of 100 years old. And again, we came to this country. We left England in order to be able to practice our own religion without people telling us what to do, without a king telling us what to do. And our founding forefathers were brilliant men. They were really brilliant men. And they crafted documents to create this country that in many ways have stood the test of time. Many aspects of our country have worked well and continue to work well. But the whole notion of separating church and state has floundered. And I believe that floundering really took off I think it was in the 1950s. where we changed the pledge for the flag, because the Pledge of America never used to include under God. Those words were never in there because, again, our country is not about religion. It's about living together in a way that allows everyone to be themselves and practice what they believe. And we are so 180 from that right now. It's painful. It's painful to think about. People that love this country and understand it at its core.
Right.
Like me. I mean,
like you and me.
Yeah, like us. And have appreciated it for what it was intended to create.
Yes.
And have attempted to leverage it for what it was attempted to create. I've been on marches. I've protested.
Me too.
I haven't been to my last protest, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If I lived in Tennessee, I would be at their courthouse right now, screaming my head off. You know, I mean, if for people who aren't aware of what just happened in Tennessee, there was a school shooting last week or the week before, and there are 3 Democratic representatives in the Tennessee House of Representatives that joined the protesters and wanted to do gun reform. Guess what? 2 of those people were black men, young black men. And guess what Tennessee did? They threw them out. They took away their right to represent their people. They were elected.
Yeah. That just, it's like they threw them out of the legislative body.
Right. Yeah. Don't tell me that isn't based on white supremacy.
Right. And, you know, when your religion is doing that kind of thing, it's definitely not contributing to a beloved society. And like the separation and division, I want to talk about that a little more, because one of the things I always find is like, okay, so, you know, the Muslims and the Jews are fighting with each other, and the Christians and the Muslims are fighting with each other, and the Christians and the Jews have certainly fought with each other plenty in the past, you know. Then you have the Christians fighting with other sects of Christianity, the different sects of Islam fighting with each other. It's like, if within your religion you can't even agree on these basic premises enough so that you're not trying to kill each other, it's like religion is just standing in for other forms of tribalism in addition to its own tribalism. So if you have, you know, sects that are divided by race or whatever other things, and then you pile the religion on top of it, you know, let's just all Christians go slaughter each other in Ireland, and let's Muslims be fighting with each other over in Syria, although they'll also fight with your Christians and your Jews if they're there. But you know, sorry, I gotta laugh or I just can't.
Right. No, I understand. I understand. Because really what's happened is these religions have really created places that allow people who are in pain to act out against other people.
Yes.
And they justify it. They're justifying it. So the whole argument about abortion. Okay, first of all, let's just back up a minute. Where, when did it ever become okay that other people get to decide what we do with our bodies? Right? That is all stemming from religion.
And abortion wasn't even always illegal.
Right.
You know, they used to do that in the olden days with like potions and things that would cause you to miscarry. And there weren't any laws against it.
No.
I don't know when
No.
they first legislated against it. I should look that up. Anyway.
But what we'll find when we look it up is that the people behind it are touting some religion,
Yeah.
some religious reason why we shouldn't be able to do this. And, I mean, there is a point where I don't think a person should engage in abortion. There is a point, but at that point, and I don't know what it is in terms of weeks, there is a point beyond which you pass, and it's like, yeah, you can't do it now. You're going to
And
have
most states have had that illegal the last trimester.
right, right,
for a long time, unless
right,
maybe the mother's life was in danger or
right,
something.
right,
No, that's one of the manipulations that happens. They
right,
make it seem like people are aborting viable babies.
right,
Anybody who's had that baby in them for all those months probably wanted it,
right, right.
Anyway, I know I interrupted sort of, but
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's a complicated subject, right? Because we are all one. That baby means baby is also a part of the one. And it is important to show respect, right? Because we are all one. So legislation that stops a person from, deciding that they're not going to keep this being alive at a certain point seems not unreasonable to me. But certainly the first 3 months, it seems to be that, to me anyway, that it should be a mother's right. It's her body, it's her life. However the circumstance that she came to be pregnant, in that first trimester, nobody should be legislating anything. They shouldn't be legislating the doctors she can visit. They shouldn't be legislating how she deals with it. It's nobody's business. It shouldn't be anybody's business.
and
And
personally,
go
yes,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was just going to say, I don't think that legislating, I think that once it's viable outside the womb, then you can say, now it's too late.
right.
But that's when I think that cutoff needs to be. And I can't say when that is. And
Right.
also, Linda, you've heard me say, if men were the ones who got pregnant, we would not even be having this conversation.
Not at all.
They would
Exactly.
not allow these kinds of
Exactly.
rules about their bodies and what they can do with them.
Exactly.
It's another aspect of, and misogyny is another aspect of white supremacy. Might as well, it's white male supremacy.
Right. Exactly.
That's what it is.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it's, what came first? That's really the question. Did religions come before white supremacy and misogyny and male supremacy, or were they birthed out of that? And that's what I think, is that they were birthed out of that. That has always been, because the being itself, the housing, has pre-wired qualities. And the pre-wired qualities, women are nurturing and caring and loving, and men are the, hunters and fixers. That's the wiring. That's not the psychology. And so go ahead.
It's definitely all related.
Right.
And then you get into that. I mean, when did we change from this sort of matrilineal, what do you call it, matriarchal religions to the
patriarchy?
It's interesting, to the patriarchy, because when I think about like the Old Testament, they already talk about slaves and things. But I don't know that. See, that wasn't about white supremacy, though. It's like the Africans enslaved each other. So, like, the I do think that, I don't know, it's complicated, and I don't know which came first. And I do think that in some senses they probably came up together to an extent, you know?
Right.
But the white supremacy thing definitely does seem to be related to that, when the white people really started enslaving people of other colors. I don't know. I don't know. I think there's something specific to, I don't know. I don't know enough, because there's South Africa and that situation where, what's that? Colonization.
Right.
That's what it's
Right.
related to.
Well, colonization is straight up white supremacy, isn't it?
Right.
I
Right.
mean, because did other countries go off and colonize? I mean, did other
I
races?
mean, yes, Spaniards and Portuguese and,
True.
but I guess they were white if they're European. I don't know. There's stuff that happened in Asia with them. So there's the tribalism aspect,
Right.
and
Right.
the racial aspect is one aspect of it.
Right. Right. And it does seem like it's all tangled up together.
It is all tangled up together.
Right. Right.
And it all comes down to some people thinking that they're better than other people. And the reasons for that could be because they're a man, because they're a particular race, because they're a religion, because they were born to the king and now they think they're God.
Right. Right. It's a long list.
Oh, Lordy, we just got into a big knot here, Linda.
Yep. 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 But you have to, right? I think at some point, America anyway has to have this conversation.
Yeah.
We have to have this conversation because we are eating ourselves alive here. We're feeding our young to each other. It's horrible.
It's horrible. One of the things that was really interesting, I work at a law school, some of you know that. And last week we had our annual Women in Law conference, which was amazing. And it was about hate crimes. And one of the things that one of the speakers said is that, there's that sense of 1619 is when it started, the slavery and all, but it's not. And it's like the perspective from 1619 is when the English came over, but before that you did have the Spaniards and the Spaniards in the Indies, enslaving people there.
And the North.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's like, did the Norse enslave people?
I don't know that they did.
I don't think they did that. But it's like the slavery aspect started earlier than that, even. So the history of it is even longer. And that was something that I hadn't really thought about. It's, anyway, centuries of the white supremacy. And, we've only had the civil rights movement in my lifetime. It's like, it hasn't even been 100 years.
No, I know.
So
I know.
there is still a lot to be rooted out.
A lot to be fixed. I really do. A lot. Yeah, if you're out there in the audience and you'd like to participate in the conversation, you can call in live to the studio at 1-907-351-3003, or you can send an email to questions@walkingthroughyourwalls.com. We'd love to have you join the conversation.
Mm-hmm. And you can also comment on.
Right, and you can comment if you're watching live here. You can comment on whatever platform you happen to be on.
Yep. And if you are watching this later, you can still send in your questions for next time. We're always eager to speak to the questions that you particularly have, either that come up from our conversations or that come up from life.
Yes.
We are
Yes,
here for it, as they say.
we are. And we're not going to shy away from the hard questions. That's why we
No.
took this topic up today on
Yes.
Good Friday. I asked Mary, is it too much? You know, um, because we're both rebels of, at a certain level. And
Yeah.
I think it's an important conversation, and I would like to, climb to the top of the highest mountain and then just scream sometimes when I see these things being acted out in society in America that are so incongruent with the whole reason that we came here in the first place.
Right. Me too. It's incredibly frustrating as someone who is, I am a student of that period of our history. Because I am a rebel at heart, you know, the revolution of this country, taxation without representation, you know, all of the roots of rebellion are something that I've been very interested in. And, I do believe that this country, as you said, Linda, the founders were intelligent and creative, and it's a beautiful experiment. And no, it's not perfect. And yes, we got some big things wrong at the beginning, but that's because those were different times now. And it wasn't as obvious that those were big things wrong.
Right.
I mean, yes, you have Abigail Adams saying, remember the lady. And then there's always that, well, we'll get to that later attitude, you know, trying to appease the people who won't go for the whole ball of wax. It's the story of our government.
Right.
Look at the Affordable Health Care Act and how it gets busted to pieces because you're trying to get the people who don't want the whole shebang to at least approve something. And so that's how we've been going about it here in this country. We started with what they could get through, male landowners, you know, and then add as we go along when we get the momentum. And I think that this is really crucial for people to understand. I don't remember if we had this conversation or here, if I just had it other places, but a lot of young people feel very helpless and like they can't make a difference. And I think it's because they don't understand how hard the humans who came before them worked to get these rights, you know? Like I used to just say Triangle Shirt Factory. And to people who know, I mean, they locked those workers in the factory, which then caught fire and whole bunches of them died.
Right.
The only reason why workers ever have any rights in this country is because people fought and died for it. The
Right.
only reason why Black people have any rights at all is because people fought and died.
The only
Women,
reason women have any
the
rights
only
at
reason
all.
women can vote is because I don't know how many of us died, but they definitely got beaten up and thrown in jail. It's like it's been the constant struggle of extending the umbrella of protection that we promised as a nation. We promised
Right.
this umbrella of protection,
Right.
and it was limited in the beginning. And we have been constantly expanding it
Right.
for hundreds of years, well, two, but like the Statue of Liberty, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses longing to be free. And we still have this reputation throughout the world of being a place that you can go and you can make your fortune and you can be
I
free.
don't know that we still have it now.
To an extent, we still do. People are still coming here. I see them. You might
Yeah.
not see them as much in Alaska,
Yeah.
but I was talking to a guy from Haiti who was taking the bus. I helped him find the bus station downtown because he came first. He went, I forget where he went first, but he was here and someone offered him some kind of scammy job and he was really depressed and going to go try to find somewhere else. It's like there definitely are people who still come for that. And it makes me very sad because the
Right.
reality on the ground here
is that it's
It's
not
kind of a
true.
dumpster
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
And there still are opportunities, but it's not what people think. And there's so much exploitation and stuff. But it's like, the point is, and you and I have talked about this, Linda, this country was always aspirational. We were always aspiring to be greater than the reality of what we created here.
Right.
And it's always, expanding the umbrella has always been, to me, that's what this country is about.
Right.
Expanding that umbrella until it encompasses everyone,
Right. Right.
the Black people, the women, the Latinos. Let's not talk about Native Americans today, because that's like a whole other conversation that we cannot encompass. But, that's another big failing in this country. But, like, the gay people, the trans people, which is the big thing now. And, do we understand that it's really, and the different religions, it's really people scapegoating other people so that they can feel superior to somebody. And that
Right.
goes back to the white supremacy. You have the special elites, and people can argue till they die about who those are. But it's all based on this toxic framework. And
Right.
that's what we really have to grapple with in this country right now. And
Yeah.
that's why we have to have the difficult conversations,
Right. Right.
And
Yeah. It's
Linda and I are here for it.
yes. Yes. What's the pushback that's happening against women and our bodies, and also against any kind of LGBTQ, queer, whatever, right? Anybody who isn't just a standard,
Yeah.
I'm a man, I'm a woman. Anybody
Non-conforming.
Anybody non-conforming. The daggers are out, and it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. So where I live in Alaska, the town I live in, I have always felt was a fairly liberal town, which is unusual in Alaska because there's a lot of conservatism here. But the other side of the peninsula, I live on a peninsula, the Kenai Peninsula, and the other side of the peninsula is really, they probably have more churches than they have liquor stores, if you could believe that. So that just tells you, right? And they are very, very hostile to any kind of non-conforming human being. And there's a pride event in June over in another town. I'm not going to name the town. And there's a bunch of people from my town that want to go over there and help support that group. And I was speaking with someone who is a non-conforming person who is fairly involved in the non-conforming community here. And he was like, I can barely handle the hostility in this community. Why would I go over and subject myself to more hostility from some community I don't even live in? And he went on to say that he's trying to help plan some pride events in our town, and that one of the local restaurants that had been a sponsor in previous years has said no.
Wow.
Because of the apparent fallout that they've received.
Wow.
And you know what? You know who those people are from whom they receive it?
Christians.
Yeah. No, they're not. I'm sorry. They might call themselves that, but they are not.
It's like Gandhi
They are
said.
the people that are aligned with all the churches in town.
It's like Gandhi said, I very much like your Christ, but I don't really care for your Christians.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So that becomes the real question. How do these people This is what I ponder on a just about daily basis.
Yeah.
I ponder, where does this hypocrisy come from, and
Right.
where does it find a house to live in?
Right.
Why? Why
Right.
is it finding a house to live in?
Right.
Because it is completely hypocritical.
It's very hypocritical, you know, and like Jesus would not be down for this.
No.
Somebody posted a quote, you know, on Facebook, what you do to the least of your trans brothers and sisters, that you do unto me. You know, it's like that was Jesus. And I have my cousins who live on the other side of the peninsula, are actually two of them very religious, but they're actually Christians by heart as well as by name. You know, it's like she's my example of what Christians are supposed to be. You
Right.
know, they actually look at the teachings of Christ that involve love and acceptance and practice that.
Right.
And, you know,
Right.
it's like there are Christians like that. But a lot of the churches that exist don't seem to care very much about Jesus's actual teachings. And that you could go back to the very establishment of the Bible when they took, you know, all the books. If you go watch any shows or read anything about the Gnostic Gospels in the early days of Christianity, and it was Constantine who was like, oh my God, there are all these people in all these countries and it's ripe for a revolution. So, what better time for him to fall down and see the light and co opt the religion by that? I guess was the Council of Nicaea. And that's when they chose the books to go in the Bible. And they focused specifically on the books that emphasized Jesus's life rather than Jesus's teachings. And that's when they set him up as this unattainable ideal. When Jesus said he was the Son of God, to me, what I get is, I'm the Son of God, and so are you. We're all God's children, and I want to take you along with me on this path. But what it's been institutionalized into is Jesus sitting up here in the clouds at the foot of the old man, thunder god. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Thor. But you know, like we can't do that. That's why people say, what would Jesus do? And I was talking to my friend. I have a friend here at work who we can talk about this stuff. It's cool. And I said, you know, I say, what would love do? Because love is something that's accessible to all of us. And also you can direct it at yourself. Like, what would Jesus do is more like, how do you treat that person over there? But what would love do? Would love eat another cookie right now? Or would love say, that's enough cookies, Mary? Let's, you know, drink some water and take a nap.
Right.
Okay, that's my little rant.
Right. So I want to try and loop back to this idea of recontextualization.
Yes.
Because I think it's important that we start doing this.
Yes.
People need to look at a situation and be open to finding a different way to see it.
Yeah.
Because until we can do that, we're just going to continue to fight with each other. And we're not going to make any substantial changes here. I had at one point great hope that there could be a mass awakening of America. And we've gotten glimmers, moments of insight, you know, when the whole Tammy Baker thing went down, all the mega churches, we've had insights and moments where it looked like, oh, look, people are going to finally understand that it's money and power that's driving these churches. But those glimmers haven't lasted. And
Because of all the money and power.
Right. we seem further away from the heart of what our country is supposed to be. than we ever have. And it's a result of our government. A lot of it is a result of what's happened in government. We had a very polarizing person get elected, a criminal, actually, a criminal before the election.
Yeah.
But no one wanted to pay any attention. People didn't want to care. They saw this charismatic guy with all the money and power, right? And it somehow made them think that it would bring them money and power. And then there was this phrase, "Make America Great Again." And I'll tell you, anybody that resonated with that phrase had no clue what was really being said.
And what was actually once upon a time great, if anything ever was. And talk about, I mean, let's go ahead and say it, white supremacy.
Right. That was it. That was what the phrase meant.
Yes.
Make America Great Again, but it should have just said, "Make America White Again," because those were the policies. We just had a government that for 4 years put every policy it could in place that reinstated Make America White Again. And
which was
God
a
help us.
reaction to our having elected a black man, not once, but twice,
Right.
and put him in the White House.
Right.
You know, there was the only thing ever wrong with Obama was that he was a black man. And that
Oh,
was
wait.
so
He
clear.
wore a tan suit once, too.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. No, that's exactly right, Mary. It's the backlash from the civil rights movement. It's truly the backlash from the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement, the pinnacle of achievement, in my mind anyway, as an American, was that we elected a black man. How fantastic was that? And we did it twice by the popular vote.
Yeah.
A Democrat by the popular vote twice.
Yeah.
8 years. But again, the pain of the people who think something different, who believe in separation, who believe in whiteness, who
And
believe
also,
in white supremacy.
yes. And a significant aspect of this is that people who have been privileged all along, when you create equality, feel like they're being discriminated against.
Right.
So everything that is done to restore the position of other people to the default position that white people experience naturally
Right.
is seen as discrimination by these people.
Right. 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 And a way that they could get around that would be to recontextualize their experience.
Yes.
To recontextualize the entire scenario and understand the history. But we get here because people become very rigid in their beliefs.
Yes.
And then they surround themselves through their religion with other people who are rigid in their beliefs. And it empowers them. It's an echo chamber, and it empowers them, and it makes them think that they know what they're talking about, when in fact they don't.
And it also creates the conditions for which these people who are Christian, who are the majority in this country, who are making all the rules, start to say that they're being discriminated against because I said happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas.
Right. 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 We try to be more inclusive, and it becomes some kind of, it gets weaponized.
Yeah.
And that's, that's a lot of what these fundamental people do. They take things that people with open hearts and compassion are trying to accomplish, and they turn around and they weaponize them.
Yep.
Through their own ignorance and selfishness.
But it's not always ignorance. Sometimes it's
calculated.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
deliberate and
Right.
calculated.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Your average person, and I don't know why I'm repeating, but your average person, it's not. But the people who have the agenda that they're pushing, it's calculated.
Right. 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 And then when you look at in America, and most people don't go through these exercises. Most people just wake up in the day and listen to whatever's on the radio or the news or the paper, and they're not thinking about who's behind what I'm getting here.
Right.
What money is pushing this agenda in my face? What where are the true journalists? The free press, right? That term free press is supposed to mean we had a comment come in, and I'll read that in just a second. Free press is supposed to mean free journalists that are reporting the truth. But what's happened is the large media corporations are controlling what actually gets to us. So if you want to really know what's going on in the world, you have to actually make an effort. And most people aren't doing that. So most people are just swept up in this mirage of what we call life in America that is actually really a white supremacy machine moving itself along. Now, let me read this comment. I have a feeling it's probably Nanette. It's their fear that they are projecting, which is true. Remember ACIM, A Course in Miracles. It's either love or fear. If it's fear, it's a call for love. Absolutely. And so that's the perfect thing to close on, right?
Yeah.
Do religions help create a beloved society? The answer is only when religions are acting from pure love.
Right.
That doesn't happen very often.
Yes.
But that's the condition under which the answer would be yes.
Yes.
And I think both Mary and I would probably agree that outside of that, the answer to the question is no.
Right.
If you're a religious person and you're offended by this, please reach out. Please join us next week. Please send an email to questions@walkingthroughyourwalls.com or a text message to 1-907-351-3003. And let's have a conversation about it.
Yes, we would love to do that.
Well, we're a minute out. I see no reason not to have a podcast next week or for the coming Fridays in my calendar.
Yeah,
So
I have nothing coming up
I
either.
look forward to a spring of podcasts. And if you have a conversation for next question or something you'd like us to take up for next week, send it in.
Yes.
We're here for you. Let's
Yes.
become a beloved society together.
Yes.
And with that, I think we will say adieu. Namaste. Much love. Thank you to those who joined us. Thank you to those who listened after. We love you. Bye.